What is our service? We noted that childhood obesity is a huge problem. However, we came to find that there are already newborn and childhood calculators that predict a child's risk of obesity and intervene when a child is still young. As these types of predictors were already in place, we decided that as a startup business, we should focus our efforts on the adult population, so 16 plus, as 62% of them are classed as either overweight or obese, and this number is only rising. As the quote from the WHO on the previous slide states, obesity is preventable. We decided to look into developing a prevention method rather than a cure, and are interested in promoting sustained weight loss, as we have found that the traditional targeted interventions see the average person regaining between 30 and 70% of their lost weight, as seen in the graph below.
Obesity is contagious. Obesity can be viewed as a very slowly spreading disease that almost transmits between people in a slow manner. For instance, if you dine with other people who eat more, you are more likely to eat more yourself. Likewise, if you dine with people who eat less, you will eat less as well. One study has shown that 35% more calories are consumed when having dinner with a friend than when eating alone, and 96% more if dining in a group of 7 people. Another study has shown that a person is 57% more likely to become obese if a friend has also become obese, evidence of social normalization of the condition. For the same reason, you can't just tell a depressed person to be happy or a smoker to stop smoking. An overweight or obese person will most likely not change his or her behavior alone. This is why we think that large-scale behavioral change is needed.
We have developed a service which aims to identify the problem of obesity in a person before it becomes a big problem. To begin with, we will do a trial run to enable us to gather rich data and recognize behavioral patterns in individuals in order to develop our prediction model. This trial will consist of us conducting a survey on 1,000 people of all different weights and sizes who allow us to collect their location data from their mobile phones, after asking them a series of questions about their past, i.e. whether there is obesity prevalent in their family history, their smoking habits, etc., in order for us to build up a profile that adds to their location data to aid our prediction model. We recognize that different age groups tend to behave in different ways, so we aim to develop different prediction models for different age groups. Who are we helping? There are 7.5 million people in London aged 16 plus with a smartphone, and in a recent survey it was discovered that 74% of us say that we are willing to share our location data, so there's a big pool of people just in London who would be able to use our service. Our main target group we want to help is those who are at high risk of developing obesity. As you can see from the graph above, on average 0.6% of the population move into the overweight or obese category each year, and this is on top of an already staggering figure of 62% of adults who are classified as overweight or obese. It is this group of people who we believe we can help by tracking their locations and raising the alarm when we believe their behaviour is becoming more and more like that of an obese person, and then we are able to flag up this individual to their doctor, for example, thus preventing the problem before it becomes a bigger issue. We also believe that we can help people who are already obese from becoming worse by seeing their location data and reminding them that their everyday behaviour needs to change, i.e. swapping fast food for healthy options through an app we would later put into use. At the end of the day, we believe that everyone who uses our service can in fact benefit, even if our prediction model was to flag up someone who is in fact not overweight or at risk of becoming obese. It can't hurt anyone to be reminded to stay fit and healthy.
Here I will show you an example of how our service would work on an individual level. This is the past 6 months actual mobile location data of a man named Eric. As you can see, he spends most of his time in central London, specifically near UCL and King's Cross. He also spends some time over in Canary Wharf, which indicates that he is a likely management science student at UCL. Eric is a high-risk individual, meaning that his behavior can be compared to that of an obese person. Zooming in, we can see a highly detailed view of where he spends most of his time and in what patterns he moves. As this heat map is currently overlaid onto OpenStreetMap, we can infer what restaurants, fast food chains, gyms and cafes Eric has been to. What is also interesting is that we can observe how he travels. Because these data points represent a heat map of where Eric spends his time, you can easily differentiate between walking, driving or using the underground. Because Eric is using our service, we send him a reminder the next day to bring healthy food from his home, so that he doesn't have to go to that fast food chain and eat unhealthily tomorrow as well. What makes the service truly interesting is not the analyzing of individual location data, but the patterns emerging when analyzing thousands of location data points. This is what big data is about. On an individual level, two sets of data points can be hard to compare. When thousands of sets of data are analyzed by the same model, small differences will most likely emerge, creating a few different data clusters of behavioral patterns.
What are possible extensions and partnerships after N years? So extensions, one of the main extensions that we would like to add would be partnering with banks to add transaction information. This would help us to have an even stronger indication of the actual behavior of our users, because someone could stand outside or just sit inside, for example, a McDonald's without actually eating something from there, or even just buying a bottle of water. But if we combine our location data with transaction information, we can have an even stronger indication of their behavior. Also, we would like to add triggers to an app that would come with a service, so that Eric would, if he, for example, always buys unhealthy fast food on his way home from work, we could provide a trigger in the morning telling him to remember to bring something healthy to eat in the end of the workday, so that he's not hungry when he gets out of work. Or if he takes the tube every day instead of walking or other active transportation, which would be easy to detect with the location data, we could provide triggers every time he passes a cycle dock station, or tell him how long it would take him to walk home, etc. Some of the partners that we could work with would be the NHS. They actually have their own health app, which relies on self-reporting, which I will come back to why it's not so good later. And also other health and fitness apps. So if they were to add location-based data and behavioral patterns to their existing self-reporting based apps, they would improve their accuracy and efficiency a lot. So who are the key players in this space? When searching for data and obesity on Quid, we actually only found about a bit over 50 companies. So I went through them and saw which ones were the most relevant or most similar to our service. So the key players are Generation 1, which they provide easy interaction between patients and doctors. Web Outcomes, who provide online outcomes tracking software. Everyday Health, who also provide digital health and wellness solutions. They have, among other things, a flu map that can tell you how likely you are to get the flu based on your zip code or your location. MetaMed Research, who provide personalized medical services. So all of these companies rely either fully or partly on self-reporting, which again leads us to the problem of social desirability bias. So the problem is that most people want to look good in front of other people, so we tend to over-report good behavior and under-report bad behavior. And a study found that adults underreport calorie intakes by 25%, and late adolescents underreport calorie intakes by 34%. So the advantage of our service compared to these key players is that it's not depending on self-reporting, which cannot be trusted as much.
So to conclude, obesity-related healthcare spending amounts to £47 billion annually. This is equivalent to 40% of what the UK spends on education, or 35% of the total national defence budget of the UK. Current UK prevention spending is only 115 million, which is just a tiny 0.25% of the total economic impact of obesity. The Guardian reports that 0.6% of UK citizens become overweight or obese every year. That is 370,000 UK citizens every year, most of which are preventable. If in a few years our service has a 65% success rate, we would save 65% of these people from becoming obese or overweight, which is 240,000 people annually. This means that there will be 130,000 new overweight or obese persons annually instead of the original 370,000. Because healthcare spending per capita goes up when BMI increases, helping these people from entering overweight or obesity will incur savings in healthcare spending. Treating the original 370,000 people at £1,274 per capita costs £471 million. Treating the new 130,000 people at £1,274 per capita costs £94 million. And treating the non-obese people costs $823 per capita and therefore costs £192 million. This will amount to savings of £180 million annually, which is about 0.4% of total UK healthcare spending.